Bitcoin Hodlers, do not panic is the message from Altcoin Daily. Altcoin Daily is a great channel where all kinds of news about what's going on in the whole crypto scene talks about many different topics on the daily. And they are basically hoping that Bitcoin hodlers don't panic in the current conditions, because everybody's freaking out because of all the crazy stuff that's happened in the last couple of months, not to mention the whole year, really. You got the institutionals, you got the regulators, you got governments, you got everybody just like slamming hard on the whole industry, right? And so everyone's freaking out. Grayscale, which has a very interesting situation with their whole Bitcoin trust, is in a very difficult position right now because it's basically a fire sale for Bitcoin using their trust. So the CEO had some comments to make, and he gives some input, and of course, it's looking like a total disaster. But is it real? Let's see what this all comes to. Let's see if Bitcoin hodlers need to panic, or if this is just another fear tactic. Let's check it out.
Grayscale CEO this morning has put the crypto world on notice and has given an update on the looming Genesis bankruptcy, what happens if their Bitcoin spot ETF dreams fail, as well as the big question, what if Bitcoin never recovers?
What happens if Bitcoin never recovers?
Stay tuned for this full clip, check the timestamps, but let's go over exactly what we know. According to their CEO, if Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF dreams fail, the firm may try a tender offer. And just as a reminder, Grayscale is a trust that buys Bitcoin, and then Wall Street investors can then buy shares in that trust. More traditional investors may like this because then they don't have to worry about custody. They can just buy a ticker. So again, Grayscale buys the Bitcoin, and investors can buy shares in the trust.
Okay, so just hold it right there. Yeah, so the way the Grayscale works essentially is, instead of buying Bitcoin, these investors are buying a share in a company that's supposed to hold Bitcoin, is the way that Grayscale works. And of course, they are holding Bitcoin. I'm not questioning that. But the whole thing is basically where, because of the premium, they hold the Bitcoin. They're not able to even sell the Bitcoin. But then there's like a buy and sell of the shares, right? And because of the market conditions, their share value has tumbled so far that it's, like you just said, a 2-for-1 deal right now if you want to be able to get Grayscale shares, which is wow. I understand, and this is just so people understand why, like, the institutional world can't just buy Bitcoin because it's not a part of the financial system, right? They're only able to invest in the things that they're able to invest in based on it being approved by the regulators and the financial system. This is why it's such a big deal about things like ETFs and these trusts and things like that coming into play, because it means that more money can flow into getting Bitcoin. This was a solution basically when people couldn't even get Bitcoin. This is like way long ago, like years ago, that they started this. I know from personal experience here in Canada, we recognized that there was like in 2017 essentially, there was a huge appetite for investors in the stock market that wanted to be able to get more exposure to what was happening in blockchain in general, not just Bitcoin. And so I was actually the founder of the first publicly traded company in Canada that was developing dApps, decentralized applications, so that investors could be able to get exposure to decentralized applications, because otherwise they have no way to invest, right? They had no way to get into blockchain, right? So there's just one more way that they could get access to blockchain at a time when the financial system couldn't get access. So I've been down that road. I see what happens behind the closed doors and all that kind of stuff, which is why I kind of take the position I take now, because I didn't like it, and I just don't think that the way that it works is the way of the future, right? We need to be able to have better solutions. So Grayscale is doing similar to that, but focused on Bitcoin. So let's see.
Buying through Grayscale, meaning essentially buy one Bitcoin, get the next Bitcoin free. And this concerns people. Now, on top of that, as we discussed in yesterday's video, Grayscale Investments, which manages GBTC, and Genesis, a company with a $1.5 billion hole, thanks to FTX, we don't know if they're going to declare bankruptcy yet, are both owned by Digital Currency Group. This raises questions. Because of this affiliation, is Grayscale about to go belly up? The CEO addresses that point blank. But the new information is that if Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF dreams fail, the firm may try a tender offer. A tender offer would make a direct appeal to shareholders to sell or tender their shares at a specific price during a certain time. These options could include a tender offer for up to 20% of the outstanding shares of the $10.7 billion trust.
But it's a backup plan.
For a 90-second explanation, let's go to the CEO himself. We've discussed some of this already, but listen to this full clip.
Well, Grayscale Investments made headlines this morning after pledging to explore a tender offer for a portion of the shares of its Bitcoin fund should its conversion to an ETF not go through. Grayscale Investments CEO Michael Sonnenschein is joining me now to discuss. So this is a pretty big deal that you guys are doing this. So just to give viewers a little bit of history, you applied to the Securities and Exchange Commission to convert your trust into an ETF. That request was rejected earlier this year. You filed suit. So you're still pushing to get that done.
Yes.
So this is sort of a contingency plan, but talk to me about what's behind the decision and how it would work.
Well, so we have been focused on creating a Bitcoin ETF going all the way back to 2013. That's how we initially structured Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. It's always been our mission, and the full resources of the firm are still behind that initiative. We filed for a Bitcoin ETF in 2017. The SEC wasn't ready for it. GBTC has continued to grow and expand. It's now the world's largest Bitcoin investment vehicle. This past summer, the SEC denied our ETF application. To your point, we filed a lawsuit right away. And that's a reflection of us as a business. We're prepared for all outcomes. And so moving forward, even though, yes, now we are in the middle of litigation and we believe strongly in our arguments, they're common sense legal arguments that we think will be appealing to the courts. Ultimately, if we exhaust all of our options in the judicial system, we want our investors to know that we're prepared for that outcome as well and would explore a tender offer at that time.
And so the tender offer would effectively be that for 20% of shares, you would offer to buy them back.
The specifics of the tender offer would need SEC approval and shareholder approval. So it's tough to speculate on the exact mechanisms and exact pricing, but at this time we expect that it would be for up to 20% of the outstanding shares.
Now, how this affects you.
Let's stop right there. So essentially, this is all about a backup plan, right? And a little bit of background, just so you understand. They have been fighting with the SEC on numerous occasions for this application, and the SEC keeps denying them with no grounds. And so now they're taking them to court to say, like, hey, this is just, we are not being treated fairly here, and we should be able to have this ETF application. By the way, there's already an ETF in Canada. An ETF has already been approved in Canada as far as regulations go. And when I say Canada, I mean the Ontario's Exchange Commission, because there's no Canada Exchange Commission where each province has its own jurisdiction. But in Ontario, there's already an ETF, so you can, it's already happened in Canada. But in the SEC, of course, we've seen the history of what's happening there, and unfortunately, these guys are getting blocked at every turn when it comes to crypto, and that's kind of the standing order these days. With the lawsuit, it'll be very interesting to see if they could actually push that forward or not. It's really hard to tell. And do we really want that to happen? I mean, do we really want this kind of financial vehicle sitting on top of Bitcoin? This kind of thing has happened to every kind of commodity in history. You've seen this sort of thing happen with gold. It happens with other types of assets. And it has a dramatic impact in terms of how the markets work after that. Because some people would suggest that the markets no longer are free in terms of being open as an open market. Instead, there's a sense of manipulation, some would say. So, it's an ongoing fight, and they just touched on it a bit in that interview there, but it's been going on for a while. So, let's see if where this all goes. And the 20%, the 20% offering, that's interesting. It's basically just a backup to let people know that they're going to be able to have a way to be able to liquidate if they really want to liquidate, right? And I guess imagine that would be something, I don't know, like I said, structured demolition, basically. let's see. Let's see where this goes.
He's attempting to quell the fears of GBTC investors because post-FTX, parent company DCG said it owes Genesis around $1.7 billion through 2 loans.
I mean, there's also concern because of the fallout from FTX, which then has spread to an entity also owned by your parent company, DGC. I'm talking about Genesis, which has a hole that it is now trying to fill. There's also concern about potential spillover for Grayscale, which is under the same umbrella entity, although separate. What do you say to investors who are concerned about that?
It's such a good question, Julia. I'm glad you bring it up because I addressed this in the letter I put out to shareholders today. All of the assets underpinning our products are safe, secure, accounted for, and unencumbered. And it's important to know for investors that when you're a shareholder in any one of these products, those assets belong to that product, and you as a shareholder own the assets of that product. So these are separate and distinct entities that have no, direct tie or impacted by any other entities that are affiliated with Grayscale or anywhere under the DCG umbrella.
So he says that Grayscale is a separate entity, and even though Grayscale is owned by Digital Currency Group, they have their own assets, their own numbers, they're fine.
What happens if Bitcoin never recovers?
I'll save that clip for you till the end, but breaking news as of this morning, Binance US agrees to buy Voyager's assets for $1.02 billion. So Binance US to the rescue. The bid represents the fair market value for Voyager's cryptocurrency portfolio, which has a current market value of $1.002 billion, plus an additional consideration of $20 million in incremental value. Now, what does this mean for you if you had money in Voyager? Well, in a direct statement from them, they say, the Binance US bid aims to return crypto to customers in kind in accordance with court-approved disbursements and platform capabilities. So they will continue to go through the bankruptcy court system, but they want to return as much funds as possible to platform users. Next up, big news if you hold Algorand.
So just to give you a brief synopsis of that, sounds like good news, but the truth is that CZ picked up the scraps and basically has taken on the user base. I don't know where that's going to go. I think considering that this is a user base of people who are high net worth individuals, I think he's probably going to be anchoring to make an offering that's going to work out, but it remains to be seen. Maybe this is his inroads into maybe something that's the beginnings of something regulated also, because that's been an ongoing problem with Binance and CZ. Who knows? Basically, he got it at a fire sale, and I think that after everything's done with the bankruptcies and everything else, there's not going to be much left for the users. Unfortunately, that's the truth. I think CZ maybe though, given that he's been in the crypto space for a while, he's probably going to give an airdrop of something, and then it's going to sound exciting, and maybe there's some speculation and woohoo, that kind of thing will happen. I could see that. That's probably some kind of promo that's underlying this whole thing that's going to get that user base into the Binance ecosystem. But it's not really good news in the end for the users being able to be made whole. There's no deal in the world that's going to do that, unfortunately. So just my 2 cents on what happened there with Binance. Let's go on.
The Bank of Italy taps Algorand blockchain platform for their digital securities project.
Oh, cool.
So in other words, the Bank of Italy has selected Algorand to serve as its public blockchain platform. The platform, due to launch next year, will be the first time an EU member state has used blockchain technology for bank and insurance guarantees.
Cool.
Huge signal that this technology is here to stay. This project is part of Italy's post-COVID National Recovery and Resilience Plan, NRRP, and the EU allocated roughly $200 billion to Italy to be used for co-grants and co-loans. It is expected that a significant percentage of bank and insurance guarantees will leverage digital ledger technologies as part of Italy's NRRP. So this should be some great usage for the Algorand network, and in a direct quote from Italy, we selected Algorand because of its unparalleled level of innovation and security among permissionless DLT distributed ledger technologies, as well as because of its leadership and its sustainability. Our goal is to help Italy not only recover from the economic impact of COVID-19, but also excel through innovation and leadership. Big news in the crypto gaming world. Bored Ape creator Yuga Labs nabs new CEO from gaming giant Activision Blizzard.
Oh.
So Daniel Allegra is the new CEO of Yuga Labs. His new gig was revealed this morning, less than 72 hours after it was announced that he was stepping down from his position as president and COO of Activision Blizzard. So even though we're in a bear market, we're seeing more and more major players from Web 2
game execs
now
are moving
entering into Web 3.
What happens if Bitcoin never recovers?
Julie, I have been in crypto now for 9 years. And although there's a lot of mistrust in the system at the moment, I've never been more confident in the staying power of this asset class.
Really?
100%.
How so? Because the value of the asset is based upon the perception of its value. The perception now is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. What would you say about tech stocks that have fallen 90% from their all-time highs?
Ooh.
That are now, those companies are facing layoffs, they're, shedding business lines, et cetera. There's not a ton of confidence in them either.
No, but there's a use case there. They actually make stuff and do stuff, whereas Bitcoin, its use case, I think, is still questionable at this point.
Bitcoin has solidified at least one use case, and that's as digital gold. That is a narrative around Bitcoin that has been there, that will continue to be there.
That is the narrative.
Ultimately, whether Bitcoin is able to achieve other use cases that are commonly known and commonly accepted as a payment rail, or other use cases still yet to be determined.
Yeah.
Time will tell, but certainly the narrative around digital gold, non-sovereign assets, in an environment where a lot of people around the world are being directly harmed by the actions of their governments and the ways that they control their currencies, Bitcoin as a store of value, a digital gold for the digital age, is certainly a narrative that's here to stay.
Honestly, see, time will tell. Lady, time has told. Time has told. You can't hear all that and say, well, time will tell. What is that? Some kind of media plant there that was interviewing Michael. Congratulations, Michael, on such a stellar response, by the way. Kudos. Totally agree with everything he said. He nailed that one out of the park, and his interviewer clearly couldn't stand it and had to, brush it off with time would tell. Come on, time has told. And if you don't understand that yet, then you are blind. I don't know. But okay, I'm done. That was pretty awesome. I agreed with some of it. There's some interesting things that are happening in the industry. Read between the lines to understand what's really going on, though, because that's, of course, going to help you in making decisions in this space. So at the end of the day, Grayscale is not in good shape, but they've got a backup plan. That's pretty much it. Corporate, financial world goes on. So once again, you could just buy Bitcoin and not have to deal with any of this. Anyways, do you agree? Like and subscribe. Leave comments in the channel if you think that there's a different take on what's going on with Grayscale. Maybe there's something that Altcoin Daily doesn't know. They'll probably like to hear it if you do. But according to the headlines, it looks like they're preparing a backup plan if they're not going to be able to get that ETF. And if that doesn't happen, who knows what's going to happen to them? They'll do this, and there'll be a quiet, slow demolition, unfortunately. Then what happens to all that Bitcoin? Don't know. So the future is untold, still unwritten. So help write it in the right direction. Stick to keeping your keys to yourself, and let's move on to the next one. Until then, hope you have a great day.